Hello, viewers. Tim Poole here at the Huddle. We're at the Sustainable Gambling Conference in Brussels, and I'm with Craig from Epic Global Solutions. Thanks for joining, Craig.
Thanks for asking, Tim. Great to be here. My third appearance, my third time at the SGC, provisionally and earlier with Kindred, and now as part of the FD United group.
Yeah, last year at the Oval, a good show, but we're past as new in Brussels here, very European feel, which is appropriate for today's market, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was at the Oval event, the one previous to that at the IX Arena, so we do get to travel around. Fantastic to see so many familiar faces from the Kindred days. That was an account that I used to look after in my early days at Epic, but also to see the synergy between them and then obviously FDG United taking over now. So yeah, it's been a really good day.
The panel you spoke on earlier, a few key messages stood out. I found that the panels have been informative. There's been a lot of agreement, but I think that suggests cooperation. It would be nice to see some people knock heads, perhaps, but probably more just from an entertainment value. I think that the idea that everyone's cooperating, is overall a good thing. But a message that stood out was talking about AI helps. I think it was you yourself said AI can help you sift through the data, but it won't necessarily explain why. You will always still need humans and lived experience. Perhaps AI with lived experience, sorry, that's a bit of a long question, is an extremely powerful tool combined.
I think so. No, I think you put it across perfectly, Tim. It's I think the advantage, not just from a commercial perspective, but from manpower, to be able to use AI is vital. It will, it can, if you like, sort of sift through so many different cases, so many different. I use it myself pretty much every day. It's been a learning experience for me to use it, almost for me to spill out the why, for it to show me the how. And I think it probably works the other way around in the work that we do at Epic in terms of we were there at the time of the harm that happened to us. We can collect the data from AI, and we do for a number of tier one operators, but we can show you the reasoning behind it, the why, if you like. I've just recently done an article that's come out this week as part of Safer Gambling Week, and there was a line in it which I particularly loved, that ours is sort of data with blood on it to a certain extent. We can show, the feeling behind it, the secrecy behind it, as I mentioned this morning.
Mm-hmm. In terms of lived experience, could you maybe just give us a little walk into your story? You have lived experience, but what does that mean for you?
Yeah, of course. So as briefly as I can, it's I've been a customer or a punter of gambling pretty much all my life. I would say certainly from the legal age, probably before then, in terms of being one of 5 boys from the Northeast, very competitive, always into sports. And I gambled, maybe not massively successfully, but certainly enjoyably, and as a punter for 2.5, close to 3 decades. And the only thing that ever cost me for all of that time was money, which might sound like a bit of an unusual thing, but that is what it should cost you. It's an entertainment that you're using. And in my case, it was pretty much always on the sports, things that I knew about, markets that I enjoyed. And the advent of online gambling fitted my brain very much to the point that whilst I was going probably through other stresses in my life professionally, I started gambling online, and it fitted my want for more really on there very, very, almost perfectly. Very, very quickly I was gambling on markets I as importantly, not only didn't understand, but didn't enjoy. No other area in my life would I be spending the sort of money that I did on things that I wasn't really enjoying. And I would say it certainly wasn't overnight, but very quickly, within months rather than years, it became a full-blown addiction to me, which led to me losing my job as I ended up stealing money from the business that I was a director of and that I helped build up. I lost my home. I lost everything, really. Ended up having to move back into my parents at 47 with just me and my dog. Had an attempt on my own life, and it was a really dark time. But pretty much, I wouldn't say at no stage. I think that would be a bit glib to say, but it very quickly dawned on me that it was my fault as opposed to the mechanisms of what I was using, or rather the product that I was using. I absolutely could have been helped more, but that's what sort of gives me the power to do the job that I do today.
Yeah, that really defines lived experience. But I find it and I don't want to gloss over, you know, some
Yeah,
really
no problem.
deep things you mentioned, but at the end you mentioned that you recognize that it's kind of, I guess really you would define that as you kind of took responsibility as a player. And just something I've noticed, which is not necessarily even as a industry commentator, just as a person, I've noticed comments like, "Oh, they let me bet 500 quid. How in one spin? How could they do that?" And that's always struck me as, I don't know how. Maybe a deeper question is, how do we address that as an industry? But you know, that is, there's a lot of players out there potentially not taking that responsibility, and I don't know if that then exacerbates the situation.
No, I think it does. Everybody's has to. It has to be on an individual case by case basis, because I not only had fluctuations, financial responsibility throughout my gambling career, if that's the right term for it, but I think emotional responsibility. You know, you would. I think it would be fair to even suggest that you probably do things when you're in a different state of mind more than you would other times. So each case by case has to be. This is why AI can help also, to be monitored, to be able to see. But you need to ask that question: why has it changed the way that it has? It's a really salient point, because I hadn't, until I took responsibility for my own actions, I would never have recovered to the state that I am today. I think it's also important to address that that's not the same for everybody. Some people just need to be able to get to the stage of themselves and their loved ones or their affected others, and that should also be applauded. I don't suggest everybody should move into the space that I've done and deal with gambling operators almost every day. It wouldn't be healthy for some. It suits me, because it's, if I just wanted to recover from my own and my own family's, positivity from that, I wouldn't do what I do today. But I'm not shy or embarrassed to say that I miss using the service. That, I miss gambling. It was something that I enjoyed. I'm a huge sports fan, and it did add to that. So that drives me as much as the fact that I really enjoy what we do at Epic.
Based on everything that you've been through and everything you've just described, and I want to phrase this as, this is an objective question. This doesn't mean necessarily putting a industry positive spin, but is, with everything you've been through, is your stance that you encourage kind of gambling, the enjoyment of gambling, and safer gambling in general? I say safer, or what is your stance?
Good question. Never been asked that one before. I don't encourage it. No, it has to be the person's own choice. There's an awful lot of people don't gamble and never would even consider it. I've got proof of the dark side of it, of what can happen if you don't take personal responsibility. I include the industry's responsibility in that. So there is risk in everything, right? Every time you cross the road, every time you wake up in the morning, there's a level of risk involved in it. I've got a 15-year-old stepson who's a huge sports fan, and the way that my brain always thinks about it is, would I stop him from gambling in 3 years' time? Absolutely not. Do I believe the industry will be safer by then? Absolutely yes. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing the job that I do every day. However, he has proof. He's seen what can happen from the other side of it, So, like anything, all of our customers should be adults. I think that's really important, and I'd like it to be as safe as possible for something that is inherently risky.
Well, Craig, thanks very much for your time. Fascinating discussion. I think if maybe someday we'll sit down when we have a bit more time.
Absolutely,
and we can kind of talk even more.
No bother.
But yeah, thanks very much for your time.
Cheers. Thanks, Tim.